Tell me a little bit about Xenus and exactly what it's doing from like A/B testing, dwell rates, impressions, the facial analysis in terms of like, are people in a good mood? Are they not? I mean, I think that stuff is so cool when it comes down to events.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, what we just do is we empower organizers, or we empower marketers, or we empower anyone at any level, GCs, anyone, to uncover hidden truths. That's the big deal. Is that I've been saying a lot about the idea that you put everything on one metric and you either pass, fail. The reality is that there's sometimes, usually, only one small problem you have to fix. Right now, it's like going to a doctor and saying, "I don't feel well," and then him for making a prognosis off of just that, right? You don't have enough, data to be able to say it's actually just here, and you just circle this element. So I can give you a little story that's interesting. It's practical, happened in real life. A pivot that took place at a trade show, in the middle of the trade show, at the end of day one, that impacted days 2 and 3. 40 by 40 booth, completely closed in. All you can see of this booth, of what's happening, is one window. In that window looking in, it looks like a house, but all you can really see is people doing yoga. You have the opportunity. It's a technology company. They want to show their whole idea, their design hypothesis, their guess, their work was all, we're going to show each and every room of how this piece of technology fits in. So people were making their estimation as to what this was about with the only information that they had, which was people doing yoga. Day one, at the end of the day, they looked at it like, we just didn't get as many people as we thought. It's just, maybe this show isn't working out. Maybe this is a bad show. Maybe our message was bad. That's all you got without data. Now, we had
Yeah.
cameras all over the place, and we were able to see the outside perimeter, the inside perimeter, and what we were able to discover pretty quickly, because, and I can get into this a little bit later as to how it happens, but I'll tell you the upshots, is that 70% of the people who came into this space were women, and only 30% men. Now, this is a technology show. That's way out of whack with the overall show demographics. So they had, and I think a lot of times with booths, I think, or even events in general, I think in website terms, maybe that's where because that's where I started in web design when I was a teenager. That's a high bounce rate for males, right?
Yep.
So why, and so then now I know where to look, like the doctor, you're circling just the elbow, and then they can use their expertise and say, well, geez, I mean, I guess all they can see is this yoga. Maybe not everybody, maybe some men don't like yoga. And with their design bias, a bunch of people in Silicon Valley, they were like, everybody I know likes yoga. They had this bias, and they didn't
Yeah.
know that. And if I'm a dude in Midwest, I see yoga, and I'm like, if I get down in that, I'm never going to get back up again. I'm not going into your booth. Right. And I actually would have been a consumer, right? That was this.
Yeah.
So here's, without data, without what we're doing, here's what they're faced with. They either pull out of the show. It was not a good show for us. Didn't get as many, people as they thought they would, or they say, let's try something completely new next year, which is a whole new guess, just as likely to fail. So day one, at the end of the day, they look at this and they're like, what if we just move that mat to the back and put something else up front? And that's what they did. And they had a 300% increase in
Wow.
impressions the following day, with a dwell rate, which is another metric that we do, of 30 seconds or higher, meaning we got more people coming in and they stuck around. And that leads to, as any other funnel would know, higher lead generation, more brand goals, more impressions. And that was moving a mat, right? So without knowing that, without
Give the
knowing
people
where to
what
look,
they want,
yeah,
right?
pay attention,
Give the
listen to
people
them.
what they
Data
want.
is listening. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, they're telling you things. Like, they're saying, ugh, I don't like this. But you don't know that because you're not listening, because you're not collecting data. So that's all really, we're doing, is that we're giving you a little bit more of a focus on where to go. And we can do that for booths. We can do that for sessions. We have a thing
Yeah.
where we can look at sentiment analysis, and that's something that's unique to what we do.
I like that example that you just gave because I think sometimes people, it always goes back to who is your audience? What are the demographics? What are they like? Like, we're constantly having these discussions with our clients. It's amazing. Sometimes people don't dive really into the depths of it, but maybe something just as simple as male and female. Where is it skewed? It's like if
It
you
could have
were going to
been
go with
something
this,
else. Yeah,
yeah, I
it
mean,
just
if you're going to
happens to
go
be
with this
that.
enclosed room,
Yeah,
why not have two rooms?
right.
Right now, you're talking A/B testing. Now
See,
you have the
now
cameras on the outside. Now you have the cameras on the inside.
you're doing it.
Maybe the other room is a golf simulator,
See, now you're
right?
doing it. So
So
you're
yep,
being creative. you're using empathy, and you're using the experience that you have at events right now. So like that's what you bring to the table augmented with AI. So AI gives you something to think about. It's not
Yep.
giving you the answers. All the things that you know as someone who's been in events and has, been experiences, it's just spurring you and it's inspiring you
Yeah.
to come up with the actual solutions. And that's where AI sits in all of this stuff, right? It's pinging you and to get you thinking in the right direction. And then all those ideas you had, the golf simulator, okay, let's do that the next time. Try that out, see if that works. Did that not work for women? Maybe if there was this cocktail that might bring them in. And so it's just constantly learning, constantly getting better, knowing where to look, being creative, empathizing with.
Yeah.
That's the system.
Yeah. Utilizing having information to then be creative, to make adjustments, to make decisions. It's more informed. Is it a perfectly informed decision? No, but it is way better informed than the way it's been done. Because some people, I know just from being in or around vents, at trade shows, at activations outside, ones that we've put on, ones that we've created where I've been, I am looking around at people's faces. I'm looking around. Are people walking in? Are they not? Are they standing back? Are they confused? Like, what is happening? You have to be very intuitive to watch those things. And sometimes you could be the most intuitive person in the world. You're still not getting the full story.
And you can't scale that, right? So like I used to do that, I mean, at
No.
events frequently, is I'd go out at events and I would, like I did event strategy, and once I was done with my strategy, I didn't have to actually be at the events, but I went to them. I didn't
Yeah.
wear a lanyard, or I wore a lanyard that said something vague, and I just did people watching. And I was
Yeah.
seeing, what are people taking pictures of? Like that means to me
Mhm.
that's something that's
Yeah.
impact. I had all these like anecdotal, but I'm telling you, it didn't scale well. Like if there was 1,000 people at that, I just saw anecdotes, and I was another anecdote, element into that, but like I didn't really give it. And AI has the ability to see all the faces and give you a median aggregate score of what that's actually doing in that sort of, and I think it's augmented with the passive, like or the anecdotal. I think the anecdotal is still valuable. Like I'm not saying we replace the post event survey. I'm just
Yeah.
saying if your single metric of truth is that, it's wanting in the same ways that you said, as far as it's not really passive and conclusive and all those good things. It punctuates things. But if someone
Yeah.
says a certain word in those surveys, like this embarrassed me, I go, whoa, that's a big word, and
Yeah.
it stops me in my tracks. And then if I look at the numbers and I'm like, yeah, those numbers were really low, and I had that word, I'm like, this is a real problem. So having a single source of truth isn't really that great, but that's really mostly all we've had. We've had, sort of one metric, post event surveys as far as our data source, and in B2B events frequently it's just like it lives and dies off either tickets sold or leads generated, and it's not enough depth.
Yeah. I'm thinking to myself, just as you're talking through this, if say you're hosting an event, I'm an event marketer, I'm hosting an event, I got my user summit. I mean, I would have these cameras all over the place because then when I'm done, I'm understanding, where did people stop? Where did they stay? Where were they in the best mood? Where was there the most engagement? Which pieces didn't? Did I create a lounge this year because the feedback was people didn't have places to go work, right? Okay. Did that work? Did it not work? Was the setup good? Like there's so much you could draw from that.
Yeah.
And then
We
I'm
had one
thinking
with
the other
Google.
piece.
They
Go
they
ahead.
wanted to see, they knew that there's a real burden when it comes to attending multi-day conferences of being on all the time. And like
Yeah.
on is registered as positive sentiment that is
Oh yeah.
sustained for long periods of time. So they created spaces where people could be by themselves and not be seen to take a
Oh
break.
yeah.
Now, we measured that
I've
and we
gone
were
back up
looking
to
for
my
troughs.
room
I do it all the time. I
at my
just
own
need to
event. I've
be
gone back and forth for
reset.
20 minutes.
Yep.
20 minutes. I brushed
Huge.
my teeth.
Isn't it good?
I
Love it.
it's excellent
Yeah.
because you need it.
Yeah.
It's a good example.
It's a recharge, right? So in that instance, it's like, okay, is there an amount of being on too long that is bad for people? Because when you're like that, you're not as receptive and you don't have the same like energy level that,
Yes.
or listening. So you're not making business connections. You're not remembering key points that are being made. Like the whole point of the event is actually diminished because we're trying to shotgun, because we don't know you well enough, right? So we try to give you every session, every idea, every distraction all at once. Boom, find it yourself, right? The
Yeah.
more we get to know people, and AI's big future, I think, is going to be in matchmaking. You're going to
Hmm.
attend an event, it's going to know
Oh
enough
wow.
about
Yeah.
you, and the ROI of events could increase fivefold because you're going to meet right now.
Yeah.
Serendipity is the engine, I think, that runs the ROI. Maybe you're a prepared mind, so you make better luck. You're good at networking, etc. I guess, but like no one's fully optimized. But if you had the five people you were supposed to meet, the five sessions you were supposed to go to, the five booths that you were supposed to visit based on all the information it has on you, and it keeps learning about you and saying that wasn't that great, etc. And there's more apps that incorporate this technology now than there ever has been, and then it's just early into this. That's going to be the future of events. It's going to be a guaranteed higher ROI proposition on attending events. Like everyone's going to
Yeah.
expect. And, I go to an event right now. A couple days, really like a conference. If I meet three really great people that I think I have opportunity, that's a pretty good event. That's pretty low ROI considering all the burden I had to do that. Could I have stayed
Yeah.
home? And this is what everyone who doesn't attend your events thinks. Could I make a bunch of calls? Could I do this? Would it be just as good? But if
Do a
you
couple
knew,
webinars. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But if you
Yep.
knew that these were going to be impactful experiences based on all the data of what your preferences are, that's going to be really probably the most valuable thing. So if we pay more attention and we start having this matchmaking at every level of events, events are going to
Yeah.
be much more potent.
It's a really good point you just made there. It's reducing that networking curve, right? You have extroverts, you have introverts, you have people that know how to work a room. They know how to work a conference, how to work an industry. They know how to get, they're not afraid to ask, hey, can you introduce me to Jeff? I don't know him. I know
They're
you know him. And then there's
totally.
people that won't ask that. There's people that
Ex-
won't ask that to get navigated, whereas some
our
type of
CEO isn't
AI
like that.
may
I'm
do it
like
for
that.
you. Yeah.
Totally. Like our
Yeah.
CEO
There
is
you
not
go.
like that. He's not going to work a room. He's not going to do any of that stuff. By the way, he's a PhD in mathematics, super smart guy, often the smartest person in the room. But he's not built like that. So I'm in middle. I can't make the deals he could make. I can't have
Mhm.
the level that somebody would want to have
Yep.
because I'm built as one of those people. I can work, I could talk to a valet for an hour. It doesn't matter. I could talk to
Yeah.
anybody. It's no big deal. But it ends up being middle management doing middle management's kind of like dance, and that's the exclusively we have. Meanwhile, people at the bottom who have all this energy and new ideas, they're not cross-pollinating those new ideas because they're not as good as networking because they are not connecting with people like them, creating their own energy, creating their own, disruptions to industries. Like it's
Yep.
just not happening. So all of this stuff is just really lowered, and AI is going to make that really, really simple because it's going to take everything that is, you and what you like, and it's going to find more people that like what you like, and you're going to be connected with those people, and you're gonna pay double for a ticket and do it happily because you're going to get triple the ROI.
That's a big one right there.